What it do, cuckolds? It's Friday night, which must mean one thing and one thing only. That the haters outside for Hater Outdoors, and that it's time for Friday night Smackdown review. Strap in, get yourself a nice tall glass of water, because we're about to go on a ride up in this mug, all right? Now, today's episode wasn't good at all, in my opinion. I hated nearly everything. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Segment by segment. All right. So obviously we start out with like Wade Barrett telling us that Joe Tessitore is doing something more important and therefore he's not going to be here. But we've got Tom Phillips. You know what I mean? If nobody had mentioned that Joe Tessitore is gone, nobody would have noticed. You know what I mean? Nobody cares about the other guy at all, right? None of these guys have been around long enough for us to like know their voices, or more importantly, for us to give a rat's ass. Anyways, we get a recap of whatever the fuck has happened thus far, and we hear the worst song ever. You know what I mean? The theme song of SmackDown like should be studied as one of the worst songs in human history. I think it's by Megan Thee Stallion. But I don't know. That just sounds like Megan Thee Stallion, right? And it is atrocious. I've talked about this before, but the song literally is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like, it's literally a song for people who are retarded. There is no other explanation how anyone could like this song. It's literally some broad counting from 1 to 4, saying some horse shit, and then counting from 5 to 8. Stick to your horse shit, all right? It's really that simple. In my opinion, rap music is basically dead. It's like all the rappers are either complete pussies or retarded. I mean, there's no other explanation. It's like, you see these like, it's just, they're just weirdos, you know? I'll put it to you this way. After Nicki Minaj, who I personally blame for the majority of this, after Nicki Minaj became a thing, she got into a little feud with Lil' Kim, right? And Lil' Kim said to Nicki Minaj in a song, she said, "Fuck your whole crew, all I see is a bunch of weirdos." Right? Which is one of the greatest diss lines of all time, because it's true, right? It's like Nicki Minaj is hanging out with all these weird motherfuckers like Drake, Future. It's a bunch of dorks. It's a guy who's rapping in his Future. It's like, tell me you have no creativity without telling me you have no creativity. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, since then it's gotten worse with people like Megan Thee Stallion and all these other jobbers, right? It's like, have you seen that video from Megan Thee Stallion where she comes out of an egg and she's like a snake? What the fuck is this shit, man? You know what I mean? We get it. You're not cool, but don't throw it in our face. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shut the fuck up, cunt. Anyways, that being said, you know what I mean? We got to keep going with everything that we're doing here, and that's how it is. That's how it's going to be. Cody Rhodes comes out dressed like a detective from the mid-90s. He explains how the chamber works to us as if we're retarded and says that Solo isn't in the chamber, which we already knew. Drew comes out with his new "I'm concerned for you" gimmick, right? Pretty much all Drew McIntyre does, he's like a pinball. He just bounces around wherever he's not wanted, shows up and says, "I'm concerned for you, Cody." Right? And it's like, nobody cares, bro. Nobody gives a shit about Drew McIntyre, you know what I mean? You've lost literally every match, even though you look like a god, right? Which is inexcusable, because at this point, Jacob Fatu comes out. The crowd's pretty good tonight. Jacob Fatu is out there, you know, making people happy, right? He's over, I have to admit, you know what I mean? But here's the thing. He comes out and he stands next to like Drew McIntyre, who towers over him, right? It's like if you were studying biology and your only two specimens available to study were Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu, you'd be like, clearly the tall one is superior in every way, and the other one must be some sort of defect of the species, right? You'd be like, what the fuck is this? He's like shorter, fatter, uglier. It's like God gave him none of the good qualities and gave them all to Drew McIntyre, and then WWE decided to put him next to Drew McIntyre for no reason at all. Anyways, that's what happens, right? Basically, Tom Phillips, as Fatu is coming out, Tom Phillips says he's scared of Jacob Fatu. This is an indicator that nobody is scared of Jacob Fatu, but that you as the viewer should be, right? This is ridiculous. Jacob Fatu is literally a regular guy. He comes out in a sweatshirt, and he's just like a fat guy. Him and Tama Tonga look like two people that would hang around Times Square trying to sell you their homemade CDs. Or, alternatively, they look like two people that would also hang around Times Square trying to tell you about what club is having the best party tonight, bro. You know what I mean? That's what they look like. Like, they just look like two regular dudes that you say, "Please leave me alone," you know? And they say, "Sorry, sir," and that's it. You know? There's nothing intimidating about Jacob Fatu. Why? Why is he intimidating? Because he has dreadlocks? You know? The amount of things that need to be like considered to be intimidating, he has like absolutely none of them. He's just a fat, normal guy. You know, he's like Kevin Owens. You know, is Kevin Owens intimidating? Like they're the same thing. He's just a fat guy out of shape who can do a swanton bomb and a moonsault. That's all he is. You know what I mean? Literally every move he does, Kevin Owens does. You know? But anyways, that is like what it is. Let's move on. Cucks. Fatu comes into the ring, gets a mic, cuts a promo where he doesn't know what he's saying, basically says he's going to win. And then they cut to the back where Solo comes out of a car. Fatu has business with him. And Cody Rhodes says, you get the first word, I get the last word. It's just a collection of losers in this company, up until this point, right? Remember when people pretended that Tama Tonga was cool because he put on face paint and started crawling around in New Japan, right? Now it's like nobody gives a shit about him at all because it's like you see him, he's exposed. Anyways, nobody here is interesting and nobody here should be employed by this company except for maybe Drew McIntyre. But let's be real, he's had a horrible year, so I don't care about him either. Then, after this, we go to commercial, we come back, Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu are looking for Solo Sikoa, right? At this juncture, we see like, what's it called? Tama Tonga ask a guy where Jacob went, and then Jacob Fatu where Solo went, and then Jacob Fatu just plows into this guy, beats his ass for no reason, you know? Whatever. Trish Stratus is in attendance and Barrett interviews her, complete waste of time. And it's not time for Chelsea Green versus Naomi for the chamber spot. Long story short, Naomi wins with her version of the moonsault. It's like everybody just all they do is moonsaults. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is this, by the way? Moonsault Wrestling Federation? It's a bunch of losers. Like, all they can do is a moonsault. Oh, look, a moonsault by Naomi. Oh, look, a moonsault by Fatu. Oh, wait, hold on. It's Io Sky over the moonsault. Oh, Tiffany Stratton, prettiest moonsault ever. You know, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, everyone sucks. But anyways, Naomi beats her, devaluing the U.S. title. Then they show a clip of Michelle McCool being told in some weird program by Triple H and Undertaker that she's going to be in the Hall of Fame, further lowering the bar. Now, I like Michelle McCool as much as the next guy, but the reality is this woman was in WWE for like 6 years. She had a Hall of Fame career in 6 years. Why isn't Mickie James in the Hall of Fame? Maybe because I guess she still wrestles. I don't know. The point is, if Michelle McCool's in the Hall of Fame, literally everyone on the roster of SmackDown 2000 should be in the Hall of Fame. Like, Stevie Richards should be in the Hall of Fame if Michelle McCool's in the Hall of Fame. He's far more memorable than she'll ever be. You know? Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Michelle McCool cries. The Undertaker cries. Everyone's crying. You know what I mean? Anyways, after this, we move on, and it's time for Berto y Angel versus Motor City Machine Guns. Basically a swash match, considering how Berto y Angel are treated. They're treated like two jobbers who are never going to win a match. Then we are told, like in a package, how Damian Priest is a big deal and never needed anyone. You know, despite the fact that he was in a family. He was in a family called Judgment Day for like 5 years. You know, we're supposed to ignore that. And he never needed anybody. Dale. You know what I'm saying? This has to be a fucking joke. This entire show thus far has to be just a joke, right? It's like, I can't take this seriously at all. After the commercials, we see two fat Samoans talking to each other. Jacob apparently hasn't heard back from Solo. So he's butthurt that Solo didn't return his phone call. What happened to, I love you, Solo? Like, this guy's like, make up your mind. Are you retarded or are you needy? Which is it, man? You know? But anyways, he's mad. And then basically this is the same story as Roman Reigns versus Solo. It's the same exact thing. It's almost like, this is why I say this is a fucking joke. It's like they think we're stupid. You know? It's the same thing. Roman Reigns left, Solo picked up the ball. Solo left, Fatu picked up the ball. But this is even worse for obvious reasons. Because number one, the entire Ula Fala thing apparently was a colossal waste of time and it changed nothing, right? What did it change? The only thing it changed is that Jacob Fatu can no longer wear the Ula Fala. Ooh, those two idiots, Jacob Fatu and fucking what's his face? Tama Tonga, they're still gonna follow Sol Sikoa. I don't know if I said Jacob Fatu by accident, but Sol Sikoa is the one that doesn't wear the Ula Fala, right? The idea is like, okay, he doesn't wear the Ula Fala. Big deal. Nothing changes for him in the context of the WWE. I don't give a rat's ass what happens at the barbecue, at the Anoa'i family barbecue. I don't give a flying fuck. That has nothing to do with wrestling, you know? Oh, who's gonna eat the ass of the roasted pig or the chicken wings or whatever the fuck they eat in the barbecue. Like, what does the tribal chief even mean? You know, I thought that in the context of WWE, the tribal chief meant, right, the implications were that if Sol Sikoa loses, the bloodline is done because he's no longer the tribal chief. But apparently it means nothing. You just thought, oh, Roman Reigns won One, and that's it. Great. Fantastic. Roman Reigns is the tribal chief. It's not Solo Sikoa. Who gives a monkey's ass? Anyways, we move on, right? After this, Jacob Fatu is upset still for some reason, and nothing happens. Basically, Solo says, oh, my bad that I didn't respond. I'm back now. And Jacob says, oh, okay, cool. That's it. That's literally all that happens. Solo tells him to go win his match. Anyways, after this, we go back to the ring for another 45-minute segment where Nakamura comes out, right? His entrance itself is about 20 minutes. And I understand what's going on here. They give people these long-ass entrances, so during the entrance, Wade Barrett and the other guy can tell you how important it is for you to have car insurance or whatever else they're selling you during the entrance, right? The entrance is not there for the entrance. The entrance is there so that mid-entrance, they can sell you something, right? The entrance is also a commercial. Can you fucking believe it? In the middle of Nakamura's entrance, right? To be fair, it was like 10 minutes. I forget what it was, but they advertised something, right? Which is the case for every entrance. Anyways, that's not here nor there, but it is what it is. Nakamura comes out and speaks in Japanese. He says he has watched from the shadows for 4 weeks for a challenge. In other words, he hasn't been to work in about a month. He then starts speaking in English, and I understand nothing, right? I'm paying attention. I'm trying really hard. This is legitimately embarrassing at this point. This is like a humiliation. You know, Nakamura, who I thought spoke decent English, he doesn't know what the fuck he's saying. Nobody understands this at all. This is a complete disaster, right? And in my opinion, it's grounds to fire him immediately. It's like you can't even speak enough English for someone like the hater who speaks many languages to understand, right? You're not even understandable. And this guy is one of the champions, man. This is like just humiliating. I mean, you thought Andrade was bad. Nakamura comes out, he cuts like a serious promo. He mispronounces every single word. I mean, fucking hell, man. Even if you go to like Brooklyn and you get like some foreign cab driver, they might screw up an article or two, but they know the words. Nakamura doesn't even know the words. It's been like 15 years that this cocksucker has worked for this company. At least 10. You know what I mean? And he hasn't learned English yet. This is unacceptable. Your job, you're an entertainer, motherfucks. You're an entertainer in a TV show in America, and you don't speak American. What the fuck is this? This was like the worst thing I've ever heard. Luckily, LA Knight interrupts him and cuts an LA Knight promo, basically saying Nakamura's a pussy. At this point, The Miz comes out and makes fun of LA Knight, justifiably so for being honest, when he said it's okay for men to cry, right? Clearly, The Miz is one of the only masculine people in this entire company, right? LA Knight has to be sanitized. It's okay for men to cry. No, it really isn't, motherfucks. And then LA Knight's like, well, if the occasion calls for it. Yeah, what the fuck are you saying? Yes, if something is appropriate, then it is appropriate, right? That's called circular reasoning, and quite frankly, it's below LA Knight to say these dumb type of shits, right? The reality is that everything that Miz says is 100% true, as usual. Miz basically says that he's The Miz, and LA Knight is LA Knight. LA Knight says you haven't been relevant for 10 years. The Miz essentially says you've never been relevant in your entire life, right? Which is true. The Miz says at least I've had my moment, right? The Miz is like, I am a WWE champion, right? You're a nothing, right? And then all of a sudden, the fans, the smart ones at least, are reminded that what we're seeing in this ring are two men in their 40s, right? And then a third man in his 40s, Nakamura. And if we compare them side by side, we see that one of them doesn't speak English and has failed miserably in the WWE. The other one has been in the WWE for like 6 years now. LA Knight, I don't know, it's been a minute, right? And since then, he's won one title. And the other one has been in the WWE, has lapped many people, is a future Hall of Famer for sure, and is a 2-time world champion. And these people are treated as equals. Now, it's no secret that I love LA Knight. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. But The Miz is better than LA Knight. And that's the problem. The problem is people are like, oh, LA Knight is great. Yeah, LA Knight is great compared to everybody else because it's a function of his abilities and the way he's booked. The Miz, if you book him as a world champion, you know what I mean? The Miz would be a great world champion, especially nowadays. Are you kidding me? The Miz has exceeded every expectation. But more on that later on a video on The Miz himself. The point is, this leads to a match, LA Knight versus The Miz. The match is pretty decent. It's also pretty long, right? LA Knight hits the BFT, and then he does the Megastar Elbow, which, I mean, if that's how it's going to be, that's fine too, you know? The Megastar Elbow is a pretty cool finishing move. But basically, he pins The Miz, but nobody could expect anything else, right? And then Nakamura and him stare each other down. So, you know, nothing really happened here. Basically, this was just a match between LA Knight and The Miz. The whole Nakamura segment was irrelevant. Nakamura hasn't wrestled in forever. LA Knight points this out during the promo. He says like something like, you know, the guy that I took the title from, Logan Paul, and the guy that took it from me, combined have like 1/100th of my defenses. He's 100% right. Nakamura, I mean, it's like, I don't know why WWE continues to do this. They have this like, this weird like fetish almost for just being stupid. Because it's like anybody can look at Nakamura and tell you, this guy is a waste of time. This was a bad investment. He never drew a dime, nobody cared, and he's achieved nothing, right? And that's how it is, and that's how it's going to be. But anyways, that's not the, that's not the end of the show, and that's not the end of my points, cucks. So we're going to keep going. Now, after this embarrassing segment, and a pretty decent match, I will say, but overall pretty embarrassing stuff here, we get to a commercial, and then after that, The Miz is backstage, and Andrade says some shit to him about teaching him something, right? Andrade is doing his typical arrogant gimmick, right? And it's almost like there's a point where this kind of stuff is just absurd, right? It's like nobody in the real world would be as arrogant as Andrade is, but when they suck as much as Andrade does. It's not realistic, motherfuckers. Even if his character is that he's a delusional retard, which it's not. His character just is that he's like a cocky, arrogant, playboy type, right? But it's like, it's to the point now where his character makes no sense. Andrade has never won anything, motherfuckers. He's won nothing. He is a complete jobber. And then he talks to The Miz, who has main evented WrestleMania, and has had like 100 times the career that Andrade will ever have, right? He talks to him, to The Miz, as if The Miz is like below Andrade, right? Like Andrade telling The Miz, I'll teach you something. It's literally the functional equivalent of like Essa Rios telling like Farouk, I'll teach you something because Farouk lost to like, I don't know, Big Boss Man or something, right? Like Farouk would be like, dude, I used to be a world champion. Maybe I'm not one now, but you're a fucking nobody. You know what I mean? I'm a future Hall of Famer, you're a nobody. And The Miz is better than Farouk, if we're being honest. No, he isn't, hater. Farouk was held down. No, Miz is better than a lot of the people that you think are amazing. Let's be real, man. There's time to give The Miz his fucking flowers. But like I said, more on The Miz. Then, one of the worst things ever happens. This like fucking infuriated me. Basically, Melo, who is a fucking dork compared to The Miz, right? Like, this is like another form of WWE and racism, right? The implication that the black guy is cooler than the white guy just because he's black. There is no way in hell that Melo is cooler than The Miz. There is a 0% chance. Like, people like The Miz would throw Melo into lockers in high school. You know what I'm saying? There is absolutely no chance. But because of the racial dynamics of the situation, we have to kind of accept it, right? Melo basically goes to The Miz and says, we're stars. And then Miz does this, like, typical goofy white guy shit of like, yeah, like, Melo don't miss. And Melo just looks at him like, what the fuck? That's weird. Now, I'll parallel this to a quick story in the hater's life. So the hater used to live in this apartment building, right? And went downstairs one time to get a package or to get food or something, right? And there was these black teens. Now, the hater was like in his 20s, so he was a little older than these kids, but they were like, maybe 19, maybe 20, right? I was a little bit older. And then like one of them was trying to get in, and I was going to go open the door for him to be nice. And then I got to the door, and then I pretended to open it, and I didn't, right? And I laughed, and then I opened it. You know what I mean? I was just playing a joke, right? And now this teen, right? Cool guy and everything, but he like looks at me like, and he does the same, he gives me the same look that Carmelo Hayes gave The Miz, right? And you know what I did? I said, hold on a second, kid. I'm like, don't act like you're cooler than me. You fucking aren't. You know what I'm saying? Simple as that. You aren't. You're not gonna like out-cool me by just giving me like the Carmelo Hayes look, right? And this really infuriated me because it's like, I know The Miz is cool because I've watched the challenge. You know what I'm saying? The Miz has crushed more poon than Carmelo Hayes and everybody currently in NXT ever will. You know what I mean? Like, so enough of this like nonsense, right? The Miz is probably objectively the coolest guy like in the WWE. Because let's be real. It's either The Miz or R-Truth. Because the rest of the people are a bunch of dorks. It's like Damian Priest who straightens his hair and wears eyeliner. You got Carmelo Hayes who's like 5'3". You know what I mean? Like you've got like let's not go through the whole roster, but you understand what I'm getting at here, right? Then Melo comes out to wrestle R-Truth, who I just mentioned, and beats him. This was an acceptable match. I have no problem with Carmelo Hayes beating R-Truth. I would have liked for him to beat someone a little bit more elevated and someone that I personally like less, but he did beat someone that has been around for a long time, and this is clearly a step in the right direction. Now, obviously, Carmelo Hayes is going to eventually run into like I don't know, Bo Dallas or something, and he's going to job to him. So this is not by any means some sort of serious push for Carmelo. This is just a placeholder match, but for what it was, I thought it was entertaining. Like if I were in the audience today and I saw this, I'd be like, okay, that's kind of cool, and I'd move on my life. Then Pretty Deadly come out. Their entire shtick now is that they're tired of being jobbers. I like this. The real jobbers, DIY, come out, and they're mad at them, right? Then we move on to the Owens response, which I skipped in its entirety. I should note, earlier in the night, there was a Sami Zayn segment, which I skipped in its entirety. I will not be covering the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens storyline in any capacity until WrestleMania. It's as simple as that. Every time I see these guys on TV now, I'm going to fast forward. I have no interest in why Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are wrestling each other. I don't care. I don't care if these guys get fired tomorrow. I don't give a rat's ass, cucks. Anyways, then we've got Tiffany Stratton versus Nia Jax. Now, for better or for worse, I didn't love this match, but this is on present day appeal. This is a pay-per-view quality match. Tiffany Stratton versus Jacob Fatu, you know what I'm saying? Jacob Fatu starts beating Tiffany, but then eventually Trish Stratus comes to save her. Nia, aka Jacob Fatu, then beats up Tiff, right? Charlotte eventually comes out, looking like just really odd for some reason. She's just looking like really old too. It's kind of weird, right? I know I just called Nia Jax Jacob Fatu, but that's only because she does the same moves as Jacob Fatu. Nia is actually probably one of the better looking women in this company. What did Hitter just say? Nia's obese, she has no taste. Yeah, she is obviously overweight, but let's be real. I mean, we're comparing her to Tiffany Stratton, whose face looks like my ass, except my ass is less pan-shaped. You understand what I'm saying? Anyways, Naomi and Bianca go to see Nick Aldis, who has a video of Jade. The video is fucking retarded. It just shows Raquel and Liv being there, right? Like, as Jade is being carted out, they just show Liv and Raquel just hanging out there, like in the back, right? And it's like, what is that? Why would that even mean that it's them? That's the same thing as saying, I think it's like paramedic because he was there. What are you talking about? It's really stupid, but this means that Jade Cargill may have been attacked by Raquel and Liv, which of course means Naomi and Bianca Belair are going to go confront them. That's probably the match at WrestleMania, That seems like a good, mid-card jobber match. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have like Naomi and Bianca Belair. Naomi's never going to main event WrestleMania. You have her and Bianca Belair versus Liv and Raquel, who's also not going to main event WrestleMania. That's like a good throwaway match, right? Because for better or for worse, obviously Liv deserves a spot on the card because she's had a good year. Bianca doesn't deserve a spot on the card, but she is tag team champion, so she's going to get one, right? So you might as well make this match. It's a perfectly acceptable WrestleMania match. Then Drew McIntyre says Jimmy is a sore loser and that he sucks, and then he calls him Jay. So, of course, Jimmy Uso blindsides him from behind, which is a perfectly reasonable reaction in today's America, right? I was watching some TV show, right? It was like one of these like somewhat woke TV shows. I think it's called Found. I think it was Found, right? And like the show's pretty good, but it is kind of woke, right? But it's a good show. And there's a part where like basically one of the storylines of the episode is that some gay kid was outed as being gay, right? And then like this one guy who's like in the closet is like being supportive, right? And this other guy's being a jerk, and he's like, yo, gay people are weird, you know what I mean? Like, this is like a disease or whatever. He says some like weird shit, right? But he just says words, and then the gay guy turns around and punches him in the face. And now there's like cops and other authority figures who are there, and they're like, he deserved it, right? This is the world we live in now, right? There's certain groups that you just, like, they can do whatever they want, you know what I mean? Like, if a gay person punches you, he's gay, it's okay, you know what I mean? Like, that's the messaging that's going forward here, right? And it's the same thing here in WWE. Like, I mean, I know WWE is the show, but the messaging here is basically that the good guy can beat up the bad guy for no reason and still be the good guy. It's the strangest thing ever. Jimmy Uso is acting like a heel because he kicks Drew McIntyre from behind, right? This is, like, normally, if this happened in, like, 2001, JR would be like, oh, what a cowardly attack, King. You know? Now it's like, oh, he got what he deserved, didn't he? You know, this is just called poor writing, and it's unacceptable. I thought it was interesting to mention because it's a very small, irrelevant segment between two mid-card nobodies called Big Jim, Jimmy Uso, and Drew McIntyre, but I found it very strange. At some point, we get a promo package of the Street Profits, who are now serious, and their catchphrase is still, we want the smoke, but now they just say it seriously. So, of course, this is going to mean a big difference, you know. They already did this once, right? Like, it's very strange because they did it one time already, you know. And it actually, here's the thing, I will say this. The Street Profits did it correctly the first time, you know. Like, they actually kind of repackaged themselves. Sure, they were still called the Street Profits, which in my opinion was an error, but they were part of, like, the Pride with Bobby Lashley, right? Which obviously will go down as one of the worst factions of all time. But nevertheless, it was a faction. During this time, the Street Profits started coming out in suits, and then they even had a new finisher, that spine buster like 3D thing, you know? Like, I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. Like, they're taking this seriously. Like, they understand it. You know, I will say this. The 1.5 episodes I saw of, like, the Bianca Belair Montez reality TV show shows to me that Montez gets it. He's a smart guy. He understands wrestling. Because in the show, like, one of the arcs of the show, based on the first episode that I saw, was that Montez, like, wants to, like, be a main eventer, right? That Montez is living in the shadow of Bianca Belair, and he has all the tools, right? So it shows, like, Montez thinking, like, man, I need to, like, do, like, a power slam or something on Otis, who's a big guy, because that's going to get me over, right? He gets it. He understands it. So it really is a shame to see that they're making them do the same thing again. You know, I actually like Montez. Angelo Dawkins, I think, honestly, is just an anchor. Angelo Dawkins, more like Anchor Dawkins. He's just anchoring poor Montez. But I do like Montez, and as a result, I hope he succeeds. And if that means that Angelo Dawkins must succeed, I'm happy for that too. And I wish him the best, but I don't think this is going to be it. Because quite frankly, it's just them being serious, and they've been talking about it for weeks now and haven't done anything. So there you have it. At best, it's going to lead to them being the tag team champions. You know, whatever, who cares? After this, we get to the main event. Braun Strowman cuts an intense promo as he's walking, and then Priest and Fatu come out. It should be noted that Priest is wrestling, you know, in his little singlet gear, you know what I mean? Like, as he tends to do. While Braun Strowman and especially Jacob Fatu are in the wrestling in a t-shirt phase of their career. They basically have body image issues because their bodies look like shit, so they have to wear a t-shirt to cover them up. And I can't help think, but like, compare Jacob Fatu to Fat Matt Hardy. Obviously, Fat Matt Hardy was like 100 times more charismatic and about 1,000 times more entertaining, but they're the same thing, they're the same size, right? Actually, if I'm being 100% certain, I'm fairly confident that Matt Hardy was taller than, than Jacob Fatu. I just Googled it. Matt Hardy is 6'2", and we're just going to go with what we say here, you know, because they both are going to lie. And Jacob Fatu is 6'2". Jacob Fatu is Matt Hardy's size. Are you fucking kidding me, motherfucks? Jacob Fatu is Matt Hardy's size, and people act like he's Umaga. He is Matt Hardy's size. He's a regular-ass motherfucker. You know, Matt Hardy's height was probably exaggerated, and Jacob Fatu's height is probably exaggerated. But they're exaggerated to the same level. They're both 6'2". Are you kidding me? And then he's in there with Braun Strowman, who at this point is just laughable. Seeing Jacob Fatu next to Braun Strowman and them being presented as equals is just laughable. Same thing with Damian Priest. Now, obviously, Braun Strowman would tear Damian Priest apart in 5 seconds. But at least it's within the realm of possibility that Damian Priest would have some sort of chance against someone like Braun Strowman, because he is like 6'5", 6'6". He is a relatively muscular dude, and he's strong. Jacob Fatu is none of these things. He's just a fat guy. He's just Fat Matt Hardy, right? He even does the Fat Matt Hardy moves. Not as well as Matt Hardy, but he does them anyways, right? Anyways, during the match, there's a part where Jacob Fatu is doing what he does best, and that is put his ass on the face of people like Braun Strowman. Eventually, Braun Strowman gets the upper hand and puts him in the corner, and he's going to ass face him as well, or do something else. But as he's getting ready, Solo comes out, hits a Samoan spike on Braun Strowman, and then Jacob Fatu does, guess what move he does? The moonsault! Everyone's finisher is back, the moonsault. He does it, but it's not enough, because the cuckster himself, Cocky Rhodes, comes out, right? Cocky Rhodes basically is there to beat Solo's ass. This is completely reasonable, because Solo beat his ass. So he comes out there, this leads to a brawl. In the series of events that follow, basically what happens is Solo Sikoa goes for the Samoan spike as Tama Tonga is holding Cody. In a very predictable spot, Cody ducks, Tama Tonga gets spiked in the fucking face, right? And then Cody Rhodes hits the crossroads on Solo Sikoa, completely embarrassing him, right? Jacob Fatu gets angry before this because basically he's pissed off that Solo Sikoa Samoan spiked Tama Tonga, which is fucking retarded, because if you saw what happened, he would know that it was an accident, right? Or at least it was presented as such. This leads to like a conflict, blah, 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 blee, blee, blee. Back in the ring, Damian Priest hits the choke slam on Braun Strowman, and Damian Priest wins. This was the correct choice. Now, the match itself was okay, but it was also stupid because obviously, like, it doesn't matter who's gonna win. I'm not gonna pretend that the winner was like clear. I thought it was gonna be Damian Priest, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Braun Strowman. And the reason why I think that is because both of these guys are easily like the first or second person being eliminated. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need to think about this too hard, right? There's certain people in this match that are gonna be like people that stick around for a long time. Their names are John Cena, CM Punk, and Logan Paul. Drew McIntyre, fucking Seth Rollins, I'm assuming, it could be Finn Balor, but Seth Rollins, and of course, now Damian Priest, are the first 3 guys to be eliminated. You know, maybe one of them might make it to the top 3, but the last 2 guys are probably going to be Cena and CM Punk, you know? So there you have it. That's just how that is. That's how that's going to be, you know what I mean? Actually, no, that's not true, because if my prediction is right, then Logan Paul is going to cost CM Punk the match. I guess he could cost him the match against Cena, but like Cena's too good of a guy to do that, you know? So things could change. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make, cucks, before I ramble on about this bull, the point I'm trying to make is very clear. Clearly, the winner of tonight's match, Damian Priest, has no chance of winning the Elimination Chamber. I mean, now there's obviously always a small chance because of the Jey Uso effect, but I'm going to assume, I think it's safe to say, that Damian Priest is not going to be wrestling Cody Rhodes, or anybody for that matter, for the WWE title. So, as it stands today, cuckwads, the reality of the matter is exactly what I just said. Since he has no chance of winning, it could easily have been, you know, Braun Strowman. At least with Braun Strowman, we could have a moment where Cena just like, you know, like AA's Braun Strowman or something, does something cool like that. But anyways, I knew it was going to be Jacob Fatu because clearly Jacob Fatu's direction for WrestleMania has something to do with, you know, Solo Sikoa. It has nothing to do with him like being in the chamber. And sure as shit, it's not going to be him versus Cody. Even though that, ironically, that is probably the most reasonable like match in terms of like storyline, right? Because at the very least, Jacob Fatu has been a thorn on Cody's side for months, right? That actually would make a lot more sense than, you know, Cody versus Cena or whatever the case may be. Cuckwads. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The show was a complete disaster. I didn't like anything. The part that I liked the least was all the stuff involving The Miz, because he doesn't get the respect he deserves. I understand he's like a comedy character now, effectively, but it's like you really do have what is going to inevitably be a WWE Hall of Famer at some point, and he's still in good shape, right? And it's like you're having him be humiliated by people like Andrade. Like, are you fucking kidding me? People like Nakamura, people like Carmelo Hayes. These guys are not fit to lace The Miz's boots, motherfucks. They're nowhere on the same level or the same stratosphere as The Miz. This is ridiculous, you know? And like, even if like The Rock did it, it would still be disrespectful. But to have like, just to imply to me, right? To imply to me, even LA Knight, I'm gonna put him in there too. To imply that LA Knight, like Carmelo Hayes and Nakamura and Andrade, who combined will never have the amount of titles that Miz has. Combined, these motherfuckers will not have the career of The Miz, or make the money the Miz made. Or basically, he has lapped them all several times, and now I'm supposed to believe that Carmelo Hayes is too cool for The Miz? This is kind of like, remember when like Mel Gibson, or even like Will Smith, right? When people make mistakes, you know, like here's the thing. Will Smith was one of my personal heroes until he slapped my other personal hero, Chris Rock, right? I'll put it to you this way. Now, what Will Smith did is fucked up, right? And he really humiliated himself for his dumbass bald wife, you know? But the fact of the matter is, he's still Will Smith, all right? So when like Ellen DeGeneres comes out and she's like, I don't think Will Smith should do that. I'm using her as an example. I don't even think she said anything, but you know what I mean, right? It's like, hold on a second, partner. That's still Will Smith, you know? Dave Chappelle's cool. I like Dave Chappelle, but he's talking about Will Smith like Will Smith is beneath him. You know what I'm saying? He's fucking Will Smith, motherfuckers. He's Will Smith. He'd beat your ass too. You know? Or like when Mel Gibson said some wild shit back in the day, which I don't agree with, right? And then you have people like Zach Galifianakis being like, I think this is reprehensible, or like Patton Oswalt taking a picture with Dave Chappelle and being like, oh, he's my friend, but I'm conflicted. Like these bunch of pussies, you know what I mean? Like The Miz is not one of these types. And these people should put some respect on his name and look up to him, you know? So that one day maybe, like if Carmelo Hayes has like 1/10 the career of Miz, he could call that a success. The fact of the matter is Carmelo Hayes is going to have like a mid-card career. He's going to have like an Andrade career, you know? And if nobody's going to give a shit about him in 10 years. Nobody's going to remember Carmelo Hayes, you know? And again, I'm not blaming Carmelo Hayes per se. Like, he's going to do what he's told, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure he probably does look up to The Miz. I'm talking about Triple H here once again. The people that make the rules. It's like, you're not going to convince me that in any universe, you know, The Miz is like less cool than Carmelo Hayes or Andrade. Especially not Andrade. Are you fucking kidding me? Andrade has like a fucking girl's haircut. He's got a girl's haircut. He wears sunglasses indoors, right? He's a fucking cuck. He's a retard who can't learn English even though he's been here for 10 years, right? And I'm going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Anyways, motherfuckers, that's been this episode. Kiss my ass if you didn't like it. And that's all the haters got to say about that, motherfuckers.